As you guys know, I absolutely love Minecraft. It's by far my favourite game, and I was thinking today about all the small, tiny little things that make this game so good. I mean, obviously it's made up of some wonderful features, and the actual game mechanics themselves are fantastic, and there's tons of stuff to do, but there's also a bunch of very small, tiny little things that I think improve the game tenfold. We're going to be taking a look at those today. The first one is the fact that if you hold the shift click button, it is impossible to fall off of a block. Now I remember when I first started playing Minecraft, I wasn't aware of this for about the first 1 or 2 months, and I decided to build a bridge between two mountains. That was one of the first projects I took on, and it was painful. It was seriously painful. The number of times I fell off that thing, I lost count. The fact that water gets rid of all fall damage. I can jump off something tall and land in water that is just 1 block deep. It comes up to my waist and I don't get injured in the slightest, which of course is totally unrealistic, but it's much better than what we had previously. This hasn't always been the case. It used to be that it was kind of on a case-by-case basis. Occasionally you'd survive the fall, occasionally you'd take huge amounts of fall damage and die. It was kind of like a 50% chance that you were going to survive it or not, and that was really, really frustrating. The fact that with good timing and a little bit of skill, you can take off from the floor with Elytra. Now, I remember when Elytra were first introduced into the game, and nobody really knew about this, so we were all fighting to create slime block launchers that would allow you to take off. I know a lot of people were using these crazy boat systems that would launch you up into the sky, but eventually, after a lot of practice, I finally got the timing sort of nailed, and you can manage to take off really nice and easily straight from the floor, which, by the way, looks fantastic. I also like the fact that when Elytra break, they don't fully break. You still have them, you just have to repair them. Because, you know, these things, they're very tricky to get hold of. Can you imagine how frustrating it would be if you didn't keep an eye on the durability of your Elytra, and not only have you just fallen out of the sky and probably died in the process, but also you know that you're now going to have to go out on another end city raid to get another set of them. That would be horrible. The Minecraft soundtrack really is a beautiful one, and it fits the game so perfectly. It's not something I get to experience very often because I have it switched off while I'm recording videos, but sometimes I sit back and I turn it on because it fills me with so much nostalgia, and I'm sure that's going to be the case for the rest of my life. I'm gonna remember this music when I'm 70. Before I start crying, let's move on to Quasi Connectivity. Now I can safely say that if this wasn't a feature in the game, I wouldn't be a part of the Minecraft Redstone community. This very simple little unexpected feature that was originally a bug and then eventually became a feature because they never fixed it. If this wasn't here, just the amount of stuff that wouldn't be possible is crazy, and the number of things that have been made possible by this feature, I mean, yeah, I can't imagine the game without it, to be honest with you. This is a bit of a technical one, so bear with me, but I think it's often overlooked, and that is the fact that repeaters increase the pulse length. So here we have a repeater set to 4 ticks, and then here we have 4 repeaters set to 1 tick. So both of these have a 4 tick delay, but you can see the one on the left gives a 4 tick pulse, whereas the one on the right gives a 1 tick pulse. And that's because this repeater is increasing the length of the pulse to 4 ticks. So this is now a 4 tick pulse. It came in as a 1 tick pulse, and it's now become a 4 tick pulse. I use that in pretty much every single one of my redstone circuits. I don't know how else I'd do it if that wasn't in the game. Okay, moving away from the technical stuff now, but kind of sticking on with redstone, it used to be, up until Minecraft 1.13, that when you placed in an observer, it would actually fire once. It would detect an update as soon as it gets placed, shoot out a redstone signal, and if you placed it inside a big redstone build and it just fired through that circuit, often it would break things. Well, in Minecraft 1.13, that has been changed, and oh my word, is it a brilliant change. If you're building slime block firing machines, you can now safely place observers without backing up the world 15 times. It's amazing. Actually, staying on the topic of Minecraft 1.13, being able to do this. You guys have no idea how excited this makes me. So when I first started playing Minecraft, there was no way to even place chests next to each other. It was just like this. You could only build them like that. Then eventually the trap chest was introduced, and that was kind of useful for traps, but for the most part, I'd say 99% of trap chests ever placed were placed just so that you could put chests next to one another. That was kind of it. But now in Minecraft 1.13, we can place regular chests next to one another, and it really is a wonderful thing. This one seems so obvious, but because I'm such an old fart, I remember the days before it was introduced, and, well, I gotta say, they weren't exactly efficient. The pick block function allows you to just quickly grab the block that you're currently looking at, and it's so good for use inside redstone builds. When you're building a redstone contraption, you're like, oh, I need a repeater, bonk, and then I need some redstone dust, just pick block there, and it just speeds things up enormously. I remember the days of just scrolling endlessly through the old creative inventory, which was not very well organized, trying to find whatever you were looking for. This is actually in a similar boat to Quasi Connectivity. If this wasn't in the game, then I probably wouldn't still be making redstone contraptions, because it's something that I use so frequently, I can't imagine having to work around it. I mean, how could you make large redstone contraptions and things that involve pushing out blocks and leaving them behind, big piston doors and everything? Everything relies on this game mechanic. How could you not have it? I mean, it's difficult to recreate with a lever, but you get the idea. Another one that seems really obvious, but we kind of take for granted, is the fact that water will create its own water sources. Can you imagine if water worked like lava, and once you took it away, it was just gone? Like, every single time you needed water, you'd have to go off and you'd have to grab some. You couldn't use just an infinite water source. You'd have rivers and everything that are gradually just being taken out by water buckets. I can't imagine it. The fact that when you have efficiency 5 on your pickaxe and haste 2 from a beacon, you get insta-mine. A, it's super satisfying. I mean, let's face it, this is one of the most fun things to do in Minecraft. But B, it makes life so easy. I mean, I guess the fact that we get enchantments and beacon buffs at all is quite a nice feature. But the fact that it's so fast and so fluid, it just makes it delightful. The fact that certain blocks just can't be spawned on, bedrock being one of them. If we set the time tonight, no mobs are spawning on this. And the same thing goes for stone slabs. Any form of slab, no mobs can spawn. How does that make any sense? Like, you're telling me that the monster can't spawn on something that's in between one block and another? It doesn't make any sense, but it's incredibly useful in the game. Because can you imagine if you couldn't prevent mobs from spawning by placing in slabs? That'd be a nightmare. Another thing that makes absolutely zero sense, but is incredibly handy in Minecraft, is the fact that things like signs stop water. And that allows us to create things like water elevators with mobs, so mobs will get in there and then they'll float up and they'll go through without dying or drowning. That's brilliant, but also it prevents water from flowing out in builds where you have to still be able to get access to them. It allows openings without the water. It's great. Can you imagine Minecraft without it? It would be horrible. The fact that hoppers are consistent with the way that they distribute items. This hasn't always been the case. When they were first introduced into the game, it was kind of, well, it was a little bit all over the place, to be quite frankly honest with you, whereas now they go down before they go across. Then it was sort of 50-50, you never really knew what to expect, and that basically meant that they weren't really usable in any serious redstone circuits. Things like sorting systems were definitely out of the question. The fact that redstone can be placed on transparent objects. Now, not only is this useful for transporting redstone signals vertically, but it's also handy to deal with the old Quasi Connectivity. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, Quasi Connectivity, one of my favourite features in Minecraft, but it can be an enormous pain in the backside when you don't actually want it to happen. So thankfully, things like transparent blocks kind of negate some of this. Immovable objects. Things like obsidian, which prevent you from being able to push pistons. Now, I often say that things like chests and dispensers and droppers and everything like that should be movable, and I definitely think that should be the case, but I'm very happy that certain immovable blocks exist, because there's nothing worse than when you build a redstone circuit and then suddenly the piston gets pushed out of whack by something you weren't expecting. Being able to just put an immovable object there and prevent it from happening is a real lifesaver. The fact that for every block you travel in the nether, you travel 8 blocks in the overworld. Can you imagine how manic Minecraft servers would be if everyone had to get everywhere in the overworld and there was no advantage to using the nether? It would just be totally crazy. The fact that you can have a nether hub and you can have everyone's nether portals relatively close to one another, it really adds to the community aspect of the game. And finally, for the last small feature, which really isn't a small feature, the creeper. I just feel like the creeper is a necessary evil in Minecraft. I moan about them all the time, I find them very frustrating, but I think it's necessary to have something incredibly aggravating in a game like Minecraft that's so peaceful and chilled out to keep you on your toes. And on that note, I think it's time to end. I hope that you've enjoyed this little video. If you did, please sure to hit that like button. And if you really loved it, then make sure to subscribe. But thanks for watching, guys. This has been Mumbo, and I'm out. I'll see you later.